I was standing on the front porch of our cedar-sided home in Silver Pine Heights when my husband, Adrian Vale, decided to put on a performance for the entire neighborhood. He didn't knock. He didn't call. He didn't even look ashamed. He tossed a thick envelope at my feet, like it was garbage. "Divorce papers," he announced loudly, too loudly. "And you have 36 hours to pack your things and get out. Tessa owns everything now. You're done here, Mira." His voice boomed across the cul-de-sac, bouncing off every driveway and echoing through every front yard. Perfect. An audience. That's exactly what he wanted. I could see Mrs. Garrett stop mid-walk with her golden retriever. The Marks twins froze beside their bikes. A couple on a morning jog slowed to a full stop, pretending to tie their shoelaces while blatantly eavesdropping. Adrian loved attention almost as much as he loved pretending to be the hero in his own story. He stood tall on the porch like he expected me to crumble, wail, fall to my knees, some dramatic reaction that would make him look powerful. Instead, I smiled. Not a sweet smile, not a forgiving one. A smile that said, "You really have no idea what you've walked into." He kept going, enjoying the spotlight. "Tessa is moving in. She'll be here by Saturday. Everything here belongs to her and me now. So get out. With nothing." Nothing. That was the part that made the neighbors gasp. And still, I didn't react. I didn't argue. I didn't even bend down to pick up the papers. Because the moment Adrian's new girlfriend stepped into this house, she'd learn something that would change everything. A secret he never bothered to notice. A detail he assumed was too boring to matter. A detail that was going to turn his big public humiliation stunt into the biggest mistake of his life. I looked at him calmly, hands in my pockets, while his face flushed with the thrill of feeling superior. "You're awfully sure of yourself today," I said softly. He smirked, mistaking composure for weakness. But I had spent 8 quiet weeks preparing for this moment. He had no idea the game he thought he was winning had already ended. And he certainly didn't know he'd just tried to throw me out of the one place he could never claim. My house. Not his, not Tessa's, mine. And when she walked in thinking she had just claimed her prize, she'd discovered the truth that would dismantle everything she and Adrian had been planning. Adrian strutted down the porch steps like he'd just delivered a courtroom victory. He didn't know I wasn't devastated. I was calculating. Because the house he was throwing me out of, the charming 2-story cedar home with mountain views, the one he proudly told people we bought 5 years ago, it belonged to a trust. My trust. Created long before I married him, funded by my grandmother's estate, legally sealed with my name alone. And Adrian Vale, the man who manages other people's investments, never once bothered to ask how the Langford family handled ours. Tessa Rowan would be stepping into a house she believed she'd inherited through seduction and manipulations, and instead would be stepping into a legal fortress she could never crack. Adrian thought he was playing me. While he was busy rehearsing his dramatic exit, I was studying the board. But before this moment, before the humiliation and the declaration that I had 36 hours to disappear, there were 7 years of life that led here. And to understand why I didn't fall apart on that porch, you need to know that life. Adrian and I met 9 years ago at a networking retreat in Portland. He was a rising financial advisor, all charisma and ambition. I was a contracts specialist at a tech firm, a woman who lived and breathed fine print. He loved talking, I loved analyzing. Somehow, it worked. Our wedding was peaceful. 100 guests, a small vineyard, nothing ostentatious, a shared dream of stability
and a future built with intention. We moved to Silver Pine Heights 5 years ago, a neighborhood with perfect sidewalks, mountain air, and neighbors who smile more than they speak. Everyone looked put together. But that's the thing about places like this. The more perfect the neighborhood, the better it hides the cracks. My mother, Elaine Langford, was a forensic bookkeeper. She'd spent 30-plus years dissecting the shady financial skeletons of corporations that pretended to be spotless. She raised me alone after my dad passed when I was 11. From her, I learned 3 things. People lie. Numbers don't.
The changes in Adrian were subtle at first. Little habits he didn't realize he'd dropped. He stopped calling on his way home from work. He stopped asking what I wanted for dinner. He stopped sitting with me on the sofa at night, claiming exhaustion while scrolling on his phone with a smile he tried to hide. I didn't confront him. I didn't cry. I didn't snoop through his drawers or search his pockets. I simply paid attention. And when attention wasn't enough, I followed the numbers. One night, while Adrian showered, longer than usual, steam rolling out from under the bathroom door, I opened our shared credit card statements on my laptop. Nothing invasive, nothing illegal, just the account we both had access to. The story wrote itself. A Scottsdale resort known for couples massages, a Miami boutique hotel with rose-petaled turn-down service, a Denver spa reservation for 2 tickets to a wine-pairing dinner in Ashland. They were careful charges. He never used our primary card for the big purchases. He used the one he thought I never paid attention to, the one labeled work travel. And maybe once I might have believed him, but I'd taken screenshots first. Everything went into a folder on my desktop labeled Vail Finances Review. A harmless label, a harmless folder, but inside it, I was building the case of a lifetime. When the lipstick incident happened again, another shade, this time a berry color, I didn't even blink. I waited until he left for the gym the next morning. He went there religiously now, 5 days a week, even on Sundays. That gym was where he met her. Tessa Rowan, the performance trainer with soft curls, motivational quotes in all caps, and leggings that cost more than most people's rent. He talked about her like she was a spiritual awakening. She's helping me optimize my discipline, he said once, as if he'd discovered enlightenment inside a protein shaker. I simply smiled and kept watching. Through our family phone plan, a feature he forgot existed, I checked his location history. Every pattern became clear. 5 days a week at the gym in Cedar Ridge, 2 to 3 times a week at an address in Eastbrook, Tessa's apartment. Weekends that didn't match his work calendar. Lunches at obscure cafes he'd never mentioned before. Hotel drop-ins that lasted exactly the length of a client meeting. It was almost too easy. The more I uncovered, the calmer I became. It was strange, like watching a movie about someone else's marriage fall apart. I didn't feel betrayed. I felt informed. It wasn't just affairs. It was money, patterns, withdrawals, small, consistent amounts. $400 here, $600 there, always just small enough that he thought they'd go unnoticed. They didn't. And then I saw the one thing that made everything click into place. LB Wellness Consulting. 2 payments, then 4, then 8. Over $12,000 in total. And no such business existed. No registration, no tax ID, no website, nothing. It was a ghost company. Or, more accurately, a funnel. I stared at the name for a long moment before whispering it aloud. L.B. Lydia Bennett. No. Laurel Brooks. No. And then it hit me. Tessa Rowan's full name. Tessa Rowan Bennett.
Her mother's maiden name, Bennett. Her middle initial, L. LB Consulting. Her. It was her. She wasn't just Adrian's trainer. She was his advisor, his consultant, his emotional lifeline, his secret lover, and, according to the financial records, his personal drain. But she wasn't just draining him. A few searches revealed payments from 4 other people, all with glowing testimonials on her barely functioning website. A boutique owner, a pharmaceutical rep, a hedge fund analyst, a retired tech executive. Multiple streams, multiple consulting fees, multiple men and women who all paid her for different services. My heart did not race. My breath didn't hitch. I simply sat back in my chair and whispered, "Oh, you're running a pattern." My mother had taught me what patterns mean. They mean motive. They mean method. They mean money trails. And if there's one thing I inherited from Elaine Langford, it's the ability to track a trail until it leads to the truth. By the end of that night, I knew 2 things with absolute certainty. Adrian wasn't having an affair. He was part of a scam. And if Tessa thought she'd chosen the wrong wife to deceive, she was about to learn just how catastrophic that mistake would become.
2 weeks into my quiet investigation, the pieces fit together so cleanly it felt almost surgical. Tessa wasn't improvising. She had a system. Every victim she targeted had 3 things in common: financial stability, emotional vulnerability, and a schedule predictable enough for her to rotate between them without suspicion. Adrian fit that template perfectly. I dug deeper. Her Instagram was a gallery of wellness: sunrise yoga poses, smoothie bowls layered like art, inspirational quotes written in looping fonts. But what mattered wasn't the photos. It was the timestamps, the locations, the patterns. Monday mornings in Eastbrook, Tuesday afternoons in Willow Heights, Wednesday evenings in Cedar Ridge, Fridays in Rivergate, and weekends, my favorite part, in Silver Pine Heights with Adrian. Every location tag matched perfectly with the other payments I'd traced. She wasn't just sleeping with these people. She was extracting from them, little by little, story by story. The boutique owner in Willow Heights believed she was helping Tessa escape a controlling ex. The pharmaceutical rep thought she was supporting Tessa through a medical crisis. The hedge fund analyst believed he was investing in her startup. The retired tech executive thought she was mentoring a young entrepreneur. They all believed they were the exception, the chosen one, the one she trusted, exactly what she told Adrian. I needed confirmation, though, not just numbers and patterns, but undeniable proof. My mother drove up from Salem to spend the weekend with me. She brought lemon pastries and the calm, razor-sharp mind she'd never retired. I showed her everything: screenshots, credit card logs, location histories. She skimmed them with a practiced eye, sipping her tea like she was reviewing a simple budget sheet. "This is orchestrated," she said. "She's not improvising emotional manipulation. She's scaling it." "Scaling?" I echoed. "She's running the same script on multiple people. It's a business model, Mira." My mother turned her laptop toward me, pointing at the payment breakdowns. She tapped the screen again. "Your husband isn't her main target. He's just one stream in a larger funnel." I sat back, letting that sink in. "So I'm not dealing with infidelity," I said slowly. "I'm dealing with fraud. Worse than fraud. Predatory grooming disguised as wellness coaching." My mom, always poetic in her own horribly accurate way. We kept digging. She found Tessa's alternate email accounts. I found 3 burner phone numbers linked to her. Together, we found an online storage backup where Tessa had saved conversations with her clients. Screenshots. Long, intimate messages. Promises made. Lies crafted carefully for each person.
You're the only man who understands my vision. You're the only woman I feel safe with. No one supports me like you do. We're going to build a future together. You're my spiritual partner. It was almost impressive. Almost. But then I found something else. Something that made the hairs on my arms stand up. A spreadsheet she kept. A literal spreadsheet. Categorized by name, career, emotional weak point, income level, and projected monthly contribution. Adrian's name had a column. $3,000 to $5,000 projected monthly support. Next to it, asset access likely, long-term potential if divorce finalized. And beneath that, home value excellent. She had made a plan for my house. My house. The house she thought Adrian owned. The house she thought she was about to move into. That was the moment I felt something new. Not just anger, not just betrayal. Resolve. Cold, unshakable resolve. Because now that I had every detail, every thread, every lie she'd woven, I could pull the whole web apart, one by one. But I couldn't do it alone. Not when 4 other victims were tangled in the same trap. So I wrote the email. 4 separate recipients. 4 people who didn't know each other but were about to share the same nightmare. I attached everything. Financial trails, screenshots, timestamps, the spreadsheet, the shell company records, and then I wrote, "We need to talk. You've been targeted. I have the documentation. If you're ready to compare notes, I'll be available this evening." I didn't send it yet. Timing mattered. Pressure mattered. Impact mattered. The perfect moment would be when Adrian thought he'd won, and that moment was coming. I could feel it. Because when Tessa walked into this house, my house, believing she had claimed her prize, I wanted her to walk straight into her downfall. I closed my laptop, checked the time, and waited.
I waited 3 days before sending the email. 3 long, carefully calculated days. Adrian spent those days floating around the house like a man who'd already moved on mentally, texting constantly, smiling at his phone, humming while shaving. He even started packing some of his things, purposely leaving drawers open so I'd notice. He wanted a reaction. He wanted tears. He wanted chaos. Instead, I gave him silence. On the 3rd day, at 6:47 p.m., while he was on the phone with Tessa, speaking in a low, warm voice he hadn't used with me in years, I pressed send. 4 emails, 4 people whose lives were about to collide with mine. And then I waited. The first reply came 9 minutes later, a single sentence. "Please tell me this is some kind of mistake." The second reply came 4 minutes after that. "Everything in your screenshots? I recognize it. Oh my God." The third reply was a shaky voice note, just sobbing, and the words, "I trusted her." And then the fourth reply arrived. Short, cold, terrifying in its clarity. "I've suspected something for months. Send me everything. We end this tonight." The air in the room shifted. It felt electric, like the moment right before a storm breaks open. I replied to all of them, sending the full evidence package. And within the hour, we were on a group call, 4 strangers, each with their own version of betrayal. Their voices overlapped with disbelief, anger, humiliation. The boutique owner whispered that she had loaned Tessa $8,000 to escape her abusive landlord. The pharmaceutical rep admitted she paid for Tessa's medical tests, terrified she might lose someone she thought she was helping. The hedge fund analyst said he'd been giving her monthly business development contributions, thinking he was investing in her wellness brand. The retired tech exec, her voice steadier than the others, said she believed she and Tessa were planning a retreat center together. All of them, men and women alike, had been fed different stories, tailored lies designed to extract money, support, emotional loyalty. When they finished talking, I told him everything about Adrian. The silence afterwards was heavy, thick with shared realization. Finally, the tech executive spoke. "We're not victims," she said. "Not anymore. We're witnesses." The boutique owner chimed in, voice trembling with fury. "And she thinks she can just walk into your house? Like she's earned it?" I exhaled slowly. "She thinks Adrian owns it. She's wrong."
Then the hedge fund analyst asked the question they were all thinking. What do we do now? I didn't hesitate. We build a timeline, I said. A full record. Every payment, every message, every lie. And then, the pharmaceutical rep whispered. And then, I said, voice steady, we confront her. Together. But fate has a sense of drama. Because before our call ended, before we could finalize anything, I heard a sound from downstairs. Adrian's car door slamming. He was home early, and he wasn't alone. I muted my microphone and crept to the window. There she was, in tight black leggings and a pale blue sweater, standing next to Adrian with her suitcase. Tessa Rowan. Smiling like she was walking into her future. She looked at my house like it was her victory prize. Adrian held her waist as they walked up the driveway, whispering something into her ear that made her giggle. On the group call, the boutique owner gasped. The hedge fund analyst swore under his breath. The tech exec said, "It's happening. Right now." I unmuted myself and whispered, "Stay on the line." I walked downstairs, each step slow and deliberate, feeling every beat of my heart, but not from fear, from anticipation. Adrian opened the door without knocking, his arm around Tessa, ready for his grand moment. He didn't expect me standing right there. Calm, prepared, waiting. And he definitely didn't expect the sound that filled the room next. 4 voices coming through my phone speaker. Angry, betrayed, unfiltered. One of them spoke loudly enough for both of them to hear. "Hello, Tessa. Long time no lie." Tessa froze. Her smile evaporated. Her fingers tightened around the suitcase handle. Her breathing hitched. Her eyes darted from me to the phone, to Adrian, and in that split second, I watched her facade crack. Just a hairline fracture, but enough. Adrian's confusion was instant. "Mira, what is this?" he demanded. I lifted the phone. "This," I said, "is the beginning." And the storm finally broke.
Adrian looked from me to the phone, to Tessa, and back again, his face tightening with the kind of confused panic only someone who knows they've screwed up but doesn't yet understand how. "Tessa," the tech executive's voice crackled through the speaker. "Do you want to start or should we?" Tessa's entire body went rigid. She didn't move, didn't breathe. The suitcase slipped slightly from her grip. Adrian frowned. "Mira, turn that off. This is ridiculous." I didn't move. I kept the phone raised between us, letting the voices speak for me. The boutique owner's voice came next, shaky, furious. "I hope the abusive landlord story was worth $8,000, Tessa." Then the pharmaceutical rep, voice trembling with heartbreak. "And I hope your medical tests came back negative for whatever disease makes someone this cruel." Adrian's eyes snapped to Tessa. "What are they talking about?" She swallowed, lips parting, but no sound came out. The hedge fund analyst delivered the final blow. "You used us. You extracted money, loyalty, time, intimacy, all while running a fabricated consulting company you never even registered properly.
You think you're clever, Tessa? You're a spreadsheet with legs.
Tessa's knees buckled. She caught herself on the doorframe. Adrian stared at her like she'd just turned into a stranger. "Mira!" he barked, voice cracking. "What did you do?" I stepped closer, not dramatic, not angry, just steady. "I didn't do anything," I said. "She did." Tessa finally found her voice, a brittle whisper. "Adrian, don't listen. They're lying. They're all trying to ruin me." But her voice betrayed her, thin, unstable, cracking around the edges. Adrian's confusion deepened into something darker. What is all this? Your wife discovered that Tessa has been running an emotional and financial manipulation scheme. You're one of several. Then, with quiet pity, "You're not special, Adrian." He flinched like he'd been struck. Tessa shook her head rapidly. No, they're twisting things. They're jealous." Her phone buzzed. Once. Twice. Again. Again. I didn't need to see the screen to know what it was. The other victims had started responding. Dozens of them. The truth was spreading faster than she could lie. Adrian lunged for her phone. "Who's messaging you?" She jerked back, panic exploding across her face. "Stop! Don't!" But she moved too fast, and her suitcase tipped over. It fell open, and everything came spilling out. Stacks of envelopes, folders, printed screenshots, loose notes, color-coded tabs with names on them. Names I recognized from the victim list. Adrian stared at the mess, his jaw unhinging. "Mira, what is all this?" I answered quietly. "Your girlfriend's business model." He sank down onto the nearest chair like the air had left his body. Tessa dropped to her knees, scrambling desperately to gather the papers, shoving them back into the suitcase like she could hide the evidence with speed alone. "Adrian, listen to me," she pleaded. "This isn't what it looks like. They're conspiring against me. It's all taken out of context." But before she could close the suitcase, a piece of paper slid out and landed at Adrian's feet. His name. A financial projection. $3,000 to $5,000 monthly extraction estimate? Home ownership potential? Divorce viability high. Tessa froze. Adrian picked up the page, staring at it like it was radioactive. "This," he whispered, "this is me." He looked up at her, eyes glassy with betrayal. "You were planning to take my money, my house." I corrected him, meeting his eyes. "My house." His head snapped toward me. "What?" "Tessa wasn't going to take your house, Adrian," I said softly. "She thought she was taking mine." He blinked, stunned. Confusion turned into shock. Shock turned into horror. "Mira, the house, it's yours?" I nodded. "It always has been. You never bothered to ask whose name was on the deed." Tessa let out a strangled sound. No, Adrian told me." I cut her off. "You believed a lie he told, and he believed a lie you told. Not my problem either way." The boutique owner spoke again through the phone. "For what it's worth, Tessa, the downfall you're experiencing right now, you earned it." Adrian stood slowly, his face pale. The paper trembled in his hand. "What did you do to me?" he whispered to Tessa. She broke then. Completely.
She pushed past him, grabbing her half-closed suitcase, papers still sticking out the sides, and ran toward the door. Adrian chased after her. "Tessa, don't leave! We can fix this!" But she didn't turn back. She didn't even take the suitcase. She just bolted barefoot into the driveway, sprinting toward the street like someone running from fire. Adrian stood in the doorway, helpless, breath shaking, the paper still clutched in his fist. He looked back at me. "Mira, I didn't know. I swear I didn't know." I didn't raise my voice. I didn't step closer. I didn't offer comfort. I simply said the truth. You didn't want to know. Then I closed the door between us. He stayed on the other side, stunned and silent, and I went upstairs, unmuted the call, and the 4 voices on the line exhaled as one. It had begun.
Adrian didn't leave the porch for almost 10 minutes. I could hear him pacing outside, muttering under his breath, trying to make sense of a reality he'd walked straight into with both eyes closed. Downstairs, my phone was still on speaker. 4 people, hurt, angry, shaken, waited quietly. When I came back into the living room, the tech executive spoke first. "Mira, are you all right?" I sank into the armchair. "I'm fine. He's the one who's about to spiral." And right on cue, Adrian burst back in through the front door without knocking, his hair messy, chest heaving, hands trembling around that one damning page from Tessa's spreadsheet. "Mira, you have to believe me," he said, voice cracking. "I didn't know she was using me. I didn't know she was taking money from other people. I thought she loved me." I tilted my head slightly. "You thought someone who encouraged you to destroy your marriage loved you?" He had no answer. His panic was raw now, messy, unfiltered, no longer the confident man who strutted through our neighborhood announcing my eviction like a victory speech. He ran both hands through his hair. "Oh God. Oh God. Mira, what have I done?"
A bitter laugh escaped me. "You want that chronologically?" The pharmaceutical rep let out a quiet, sympathetic exhale through the phone. The boutique owner didn't bother to hide her disgust. Adrian turned at the sound. "And who are they?" he demanded. I lifted the phone. "The other people she bled dry the same way she was bleeding you." His face drained of color. You contacted them?" "No," the tech exec replied sharply through the speaker. "Your wife connected the dots we all missed. She's done more for us in 3 days than any of us did in months." Adrian staggered back like her words physically hit him. He looked at me again, expression collapsing. "I'm so sorry, Mira." I raised an eyebrow. "For cheating? For lying? For financing her operation? For dragging another woman into my house? Or for humiliating me publicly?" He swallowed hard. "All of it." I believed he was sorry, but not because he hurt me. Because he realized he was just another name on Tessa's list. Not special, not chosen, not loved. Just a revenue stream. And the moment that truth sank in, he became small. So achingly small. Before he could speak again, the phone buzzed with a new notification. "Another victim," the hedge fund analyst said grimly. "Someone in Rivergate says she's been paying Tessa for personal transformation sessions." Then another buzz. Then 3 more. The stories poured in, men and women with different backgrounds, different vulnerabilities, all with the same pattern. Same speeches, same emotional hooks, same payment structures. It didn't stop. Adrian stared at my phone like it was a grenade. How many were there?" he whispered. "More than we imagined," I replied. The tech exec spoke with controlled anger.
This is bigger than manipulation. This is organized exploitation. And illegal on about a dozen levels, the hedge fund analyst added. Tax fraud, false consulting claims, emotional coercion? The boutique owner said softly, "We can't let her run." Adrian blinked. Run? Run where? Anywhere, but she will, because she knows we know. I heard footsteps again outside the house, distant at first, then closer. Someone running. Someone out of breath. Adrian moved toward the window. "It's her," he said, voice shaking. "She's coming back." But when he pulled the curtain aside, it wasn't Tessa. It was a tall man in a suit, mid-50s, stern expression, walking up the path with purpose. The tech exec's breath hitched through the phone. "That's Evan. She's one of the people she tried to recruit last year. He stopped responding when she asked for money. He must have seen the group messages." Adrian backed away from the door as Evan knocked. 3 hard, decisive knocks. I opened the door slowly. He looked at me with the calmness of someone who already knew the truth. "Are you Mira?" he asked. "Yes." He nodded once. "I got your email. I'm in. Whatever you're planning, I'm in." Adrian looked between us in horror. "Planning what?" I stepped aside so Evan could enter, my voice steady and cold. "A coordinated response," I said. "Documentation, legal action, tax reports, consumer protection filings, everything."
Adrian shook his head wildly, panic rising in him like a tide. Wait, Mira. If you go after her, you'll take me down too. I was part of it." "You financed it," I corrected. "That's different." He blinked rapidly, realization hitting him with the force of a truck. "Mira, I'm gonna lose everything." His voice broke. "I know," I said softly. "No one did this to you more than you did to yourself." He sank into the chair again, elbows on his knees, face in his hands. Evan glanced at him with a disgusted scoff. "He's not the priority. She is." I nodded. "We start tomorrow morning, first thing." And as the group murmured in agreement, as evidence loaded into our shared folder, as victims continued pouring in, I realized something. This wasn't just justice. This was a reckoning, a storm coming for Tessa Rowan from every direction, financial, legal, emotional. And she had no idea how many people she'd wronged. But she was about to find out.
The storm began before sunrise. My phone buzzed at 6:12 a.m., a series of rapid notifications that felt like warning sirens. Evan had already filed his report with the state's Consumer Protection Bureau. The boutique owner forwarded screenshots of forms she submitted to the tax commission. The hedge fund analyst had overnighted a packet to his attorney with a thick stack of evidence. The retired tech executive emailed a detailed timeline to the district attorney's office, time-stamped, organized, impossible to ignore. It was all happening faster than even I expected. By 7 a.m., our shared evidence folder had doubled in size. By 7:30, tripled. New victims kept joining, people who saw the group thread and recognized Tessa's patterns immediately. It spread like wildfire. Names, payments, messages, dates. Every lie she told someone became another thread in the net closing around her. Adrian didn't come out of the guest room that morning. When he finally emerged, his eyes were red and his shirt was wrinkled like he hadn't slept. He stood in the kitchen while I made tea, looking smaller than I'd ever seen him. "Mira, they're going after her legally?" he asked quietly. "Yes. And that means they'll look into me too, won't they?" I didn't sugarcoat it. "They might." His hand shook as he rubbed the back of his neck. I didn't know. I swear I didn't know."
Intent doesn't erase involvement, I said softly. He sank onto a stool, his voice barely above a whisper. What do I do? Cooperate. He nodded slowly, defeated. But that wasn't the worst part for him. The worst part came exactly an hour later. At 8:41 a.m., his phone rang. He stiffened when he saw the caller ID. Stanford and Vale Financial Group. His firm. His boss. He stepped into the dining room to answer, but I stayed close enough to hear his voice crack. What do you mean I'm suspended? No, I wasn't aware. I didn't. Sir, please. Silence. Then, she what? My wife? No, I didn't authorize. I didn't sign. Sir, please don't fire me, please. He stumbled back into the kitchen, pale as chalk. She used my name on her invoices. She listed me as a business reference for her consulting. My firm thinks I vouched for her. They're investigating financial collusion. I exhaled sharply. Tessa needed legitimacy. You were a perfect shield. Adrian pressed his palms into his eyes, shaking. My whole career, my entire reputation, gone. I didn't tell him he deserved it. He already knew. At 10:03, the pharmaceutical rep sent a message to the group. Tessa's gone. Her apartment is empty. Of course it was. Predators run when cornered. But she hadn't gone far. At 11:17, the tech exec uploaded a photo. Tessa's car parked outside a cheap motel off the interstate. Someone had spotted her. Then a second message. She hasn't checked out. Her car is still here. Then a third. 2 more victims just arrived. They want answers. I stared at the photo. Her shiny gym influencer life had disintegrated into a single overnight bag and a motel that smelled like old smoke. Adrian whispered behind me, "They found her." Yes. And what happens now? For now, nothing physical. No confrontation, just documentation. Everything we gather goes straight to the authorities. But she could still get away. I looked at him. Truly looked at him. She won't. He swallowed. How are you so calm? Because this wasn't chaos to me. This was justice, assembling itself piece by piece. Around noon, another notification came through. A video from one of the newest victims. It showed Tessa stepping out of her motel room, hair a mess, wearing oversized sunglasses and clutching her phone like it was a lifeline. She looked frantic, disoriented, cornered. Paparazzi didn't surround her. Victims did. Not yelling, not attacking, just standing there, watching her walk past them, the woman who took thousands from each of them, staring at her with the silent weight of truth. She flinched under every gaze. She got into her car and sped away, but the damage was done. The truth had caught up to her. Back at home, Adrian threw his phone across the room. It hit the wall and fell onto the carpet with a pathetic thud. He sank to the floor, voice breaking. "My life is over." "No," I said. "Your old life is over. That's different." He looked at me through tears he would have never shown 6 months ago. "Mira, I know I don't deserve your forgiveness," he whispered, "but I'm begging you, please help me." I didn't answer immediately. Instead, I walked to the window. Outside, the sun was high. Kids rode their bikes down the street. Sprinklers danced across lawns. Life in Silver Pine Heights went on, as if it hadn't witnessed the collapse of an entire illusion. Then I turned back to him. "I'll help you tell the truth," I said, "but that's it." He nodded, relief mixed with shame. "Thank you," he whispered. But he made one mistake. He reached out like he wanted to touch my hand. Reflexive, desperate. I stepped back. "Don't," I said quietly. "We're not those people anymore." His hand fell. At 3:04 p.m., a new message came from Evan. "She won't be able to leave the state. We've filed with too many agencies now. Her accounts will be flagged." Another followed. "The district attorney's office has officially opened a review." And one final message. "This is happening." I closed my eyes, letting the weight settle. This was the beginning of the end, not just for Tessa, but for the entire web she built. Adrian, broken, whispered behind me, "What happens next?" I opened my eyes. Part of her world will fall, and then the rest will collapse under it. And when it does, none of us will have to chase her. She'll walk into the consequences on her own.
The collapse didn't happen all at once. It came in waves, quiet at first, then loud enough to shake everything Tessa had built on lies. The first wave hit the next morning. A notification lit up our group chat. The tech executive had received an email from the district attorney's office requesting full documentation, not "we'll review it," not "we'll keep it on file." A direct request, the kind that meant someone, somewhere, had looked at our compiled evidence and said one word: proceed. By noon, 3 more victims had been contacted. By evening, the DA had scheduled interviews. Tessa's world had begun to crumble, but Adrian's was unraveling too. His firm emailed him again, this time asking him to come in for an employment integrity review. He looked at me with hollow eyes. "I'm finished," he whispered. Maybe he was. Maybe he wasn't. Either way, it wasn't my job to save him. He went upstairs to change, shoulders slumped, looking like a man walking toward a guillotine. As the door closed behind him, I felt something shift inside me. Not pity, not revenge, something quieter, steadier. Freedom. For the first time in years, I breathed without feeling like I owed someone an explanation. While Adrian was gone, I opened every window in the house, letting the crisp Silverpine Heights air flow through the rooms, clearing out the scent of him, the tension he created, the illusions he tried to maintain. My home felt lighter, cleaner, mine again.
Around 4 p.m., a text buzzed on my phone. It was from the pharmaceutical rep. "We just got confirmation. Her accounts are frozen." A second message followed. "She tried to transfer money last night. It didn't go through." A third. "She's trapped, Mira. She can't run." I didn't celebrate. There was nothing joyful about watching someone's world catch fire, even someone who set the flames herself. But I did feel justice settling into place. Later that evening, as the sun dipped behind the pine trees, Adrian came home looking like he'd aged 10 years. "They suspended me," he said. "Pending investigation. They're checking every account I handled." He dropped his car keys on the counter. The clatter echoed through the room. "I never thought this would happen to me." I didn't argue. He didn't need a debate, he needed the truth. "You didn't think consequences were a real thing. You thought life only caught up to other people." He swallowed hard. "I miss who we were, Mira." I shook my head gently. "No, you miss who you pretended to be." For the first time, he didn't try to deny it.
That night, he went to sleep in the guest room again. I stayed awake, sitting at the dining table with the light on low, reviewing documents, organizing evidence, answering messages from the growing victim group. We weren't just a group anymore. We were a force. And then, at 9:14 p.m., my phone buzzed again. A video call request. From Evan. I answered. His face appeared, serious and determined. "We found something," he said. "You need to see this." "Show me." He shared his screen.
It was a file from Tessa's cloud backup, something he'd managed to access using an old link she forgot to deactivate. A recording, a voice memo. Tessa's voice filled the speaker, smooth, but laced with something darker. If Adrian goes through with the divorce, I can secure the house. Once he signs the transfer paperwork, the equity will be accessible. He doesn't need to know the details. He trusts too easily. Evan paused the recording. She planned to steal your home outright. My jaw tightened. This wasn't an affair. This wasn't even a scam. This was a long-term acquisition plan, with your husband as the pawn. I nodded once, slowly. I know. He looked at me closely. You're incredibly composed, Mira. Most people would be falling apart. I exhaled. I did my falling apart quietly, I said, years ago. When the call ended, I leaned back in my chair and stared at the ceiling. Not in despair, not in exhaustion, in clarity. For so long, I had tried to be the calm wife, the steady anchor, the one who always forgave, always smoothed edges, always kept the peace. But that version of me had been fading for months, ever since I saw the first lie, the first stain on his collar, the first late-night meeting that didn't align. Now she was gone completely. In her place stood someone sharper, more aware, less willing to bend to other people's chaos. Adrian wasn't the only one losing things. I was shedding things too. Old expectations, old roles, old versions of myself that kept me small and patient and quiet. And in that quiet house, with my windows open and the night settling against the glass, I realized something important. I wasn't waiting for the storm to pass anymore. I had become the storm, and the final wave was still coming.
3 days after the investigations began, the storm finally broke open. It was early morning when pounding started at my front door. Sharp, urgent, unmistakable. Not the light knock of a neighbor, not Adrian's hesitant tap. The kind of knock that meant authority. Adrian rushed out of the guest room, hair a mess, panic written across his face. "Mira, what is that? Did something happen?" I didn't answer. I already knew. I opened the door and 2 state investigators stood on my front step, badges visible against their jackets. Their expressions were stern, professional, unshaken by the weight of what they were about to do. "Mrs. Langford?" one of them asked. "Yes. We need a statement regarding the evidence you submitted. We'd also like to ask you some questions about a Miss Tessa Rowan Bennett." Behind them, a black unmarked SUV idled quietly. Adrian's face drained of color. Is this because of me?" he stammered. One of the investigators cut him off. "Mr. Vale, we have questions for you as well." Then, with a pointed pause, "A lot of them." His knees nearly buckled. They asked to come inside, and I guided them to the dining room table, already covered neatly with labeled folders, printed timelines, time-stamped screenshots, and the color-coded logs from our victim group. The investigators exchanged a glance. "You're very organized, Mrs. Langford." "I had time," I said calmly, "and motivation." They began their questioning, flipping through documents, asking for clarification, taking notes. Adrian sat across from them, fingers trembling, answering every question with the timid tone of a man who had finally met consequences face to face. But the moment everything shifted, the moment the final collapse truly began, was when one of the investigators' radios crackled softly. A voice came through, muffled but unmistakable. "Suspect detained. Repeat, suspect in custody. Rowan Bennett transported to holding." Adrian's breath hitched. The room froze. I sat perfectly still, listening. The investigator raised his radio closer. "Confirmation?" "Confirmed. She was attempting to leave the county. Officers intervened, transporting now." Tessa had been caught. Her escape ended at a checkpoint on the highway, where her flagged license plate triggered an alert. She didn't disappear into another city. She didn't reinvent herself under a new name. She didn't slip into the shadows like she always believed she could. She was caught because she underestimated
The quiet people. The ones she assumed were weak. The ones she manipulated the hardest. The ones she didn't think would fight back. People like me.
Adrian collapsed into a chair, burying his face in his hands. Oh God, oh God. But I didn't move. I didn't speak. I didn't pity him. He wasn't the center of this story anymore. He was just a supporting character who finally realized he'd been reading the wrong script. The investigators packed up, thanked me for my cooperation, and said they'd be in touch regarding court proceedings. When they left, the house felt strangely lighter, like the air itself had been freed. Adrian stayed at the table, staring blankly at the wall. "What happens now?" he whispered. Now, the question that had been hanging for weeks. I sat across from him, folding my hands calmly on the table. "Now," I said, "I file for divorce." He flinched, as if he didn't expect me to say it so plainly. "But, Mira, I can fix things. I can rebuild. I can—" "No," I said softly. "You can't rebuild something that was never real." He swallowed hard. "This is all my fault." "Some of it," I corrected. "The rest belongs to the woman who used you. But you opened the door for her. You let her step in." He nodded slowly, a tear sliding down his cheek. I didn't want to lose you." "You lost me long before Tessa," I said. "You lost me the night you chose someone's attention over our marriage." He sobbed quietly, shoulders trembling. I didn't comfort him. I wasn't cruel, just finished. Later that afternoon, after Adrian left the house for another meeting with his lawyer, I stood in the living room and looked around. The sunlight stretched across the floorboards. The pine-scented breeze drifted through the window screens. The neighborhood kids laughed in the distance. My home was peaceful again. But I wasn't the same woman who first walked into this house 5 years ago. I was sharper now. Quieter, but stronger. Still gentle, but no longer soft in the places people exploit. My phone buzzed. A message from the tech executive. "She's been arraigned. They're filing charges." "We did this." "You did this." Then the boutique owner. "Thank you for saving us." Then the pharmaceutical rep. "You showed me I wasn't alone." And finally, Evan. "Whatever comes next, Mira, just know you changed lives, including your own." I stood by the window and smiled, not in triumph, not in bitterness, in relief, in rebirth. I didn't destroy the storm. I walked through it, grew in it, became something stronger because of it. And when the last shadows of the past finally lifted, I opened my notebook, blank pages waiting, and wrote the first line of my new chapter. I am no longer surviving what broke me. I am building what comes after. And for the first time in years, the future felt entirely, completely mine. In the end, none of this was about revenge. It wasn't even about exposing a liar or watching a manipulator crash under the weight of her own schemes. It was about reclaiming something far more important: my voice. For years, I'd been the quiet one, the reasonable one, the forgiving one, the woman who kept the peace so others wouldn't feel discomfort. But storms have a way of revealing the truth, and this one showed me exactly who I'd become while trying to hold everything together. Not weak, not fragile, not broken, resilient.
I learned that loyalty without honesty is just self-preservation for the wrong person. I learned that love without respect is just a chain. And I learned that sometimes the person you need to walk away from is the person you trusted the most. But I also learned something else. When you finally stop shrinking to keep the peace, you make space for your strength to breathe. So here I am, standing in the home I refused to surrender, surrounded by a life I'm rebuilding on my own terms. No more lies, no more shadows, no more pretending, just clarity, just truth, just me. And as I step forward, I carry none of the weight that tried to bury me. Because what tried to break me only taught me how to rise. This is not the end of my story. It's only the end of the chapter that no longer deserved me. If you felt this story and you want more powerful chapters just like it, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss the next twist. Your support helps bring more real, raw, and unforgettable stories to life. Thank you for watching, and until the next chapter, stay strong, stay aware, and stay with us.